Sorry, I was muted. But good evening, everyone, and welcome back to VAR on Air, the virtual program where we cover information about programs and services from government agencies, local organizations, and significant issues that our communities face. For those of y'all who are joining us for the first time, VAR on Air is a program that is hosted by the Vietnamese American Roundtable. We're a 501c3 nonprofit working to inform, mobilize, and advocate for our community of the critical and pertinent issues that impact our lives. My name is Philip Nguyen, and I'm really proud to be the executive director and here with you as your host for VAR and for VAR on Air. For today's special edition of VAR on Air on the bilingual English and Vietnamese 2022 midterm elections voting guide. So for today's show, we're going to be providing you with some of that last minute information that you'll need in time for the general election Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. If you didn't know already, or you probably know because it's all over the place, now is the time to vote. We have less than a week until General Election Day, which is again, Tuesday, November 8th. You should have already, at this point, received your mail-in ballot. And if you haven't already been seeing VAR's voter education guides on Instagram and Facebook and voted already, congratulations. And thank you for performing your civic duty. If you haven't mailed in your ballot yet, didn't receive a ballot, or have yet to register to vote, although the voting registration deadline has passed, it isn't too late to participate in this year's midterm elections. You can visit registertovote.ca.gov, and then we'll also share the link in the chat to register. And when you do, you can bring your confirmation receipt with you to a nearby polling place or voting center. They're going to be open now through the general election day. You can also get a ballot in person at a voting center near you, or vote using one of the on-site polling machines at any time during elections week from now through November 8th at 8 p.m. We also have some opportunities for folks to get involved as poll monitors, should you be interested. So please reach out. So if you're like me and you've still got your ballot sitting on your desk, unsure of what each of the statewide propositions or local ballot measures really mean, then you've come to the right place. So stay tuned for today's 2022 voter information session. I'm really glad to be able to introduce to all of our VAR on Air viewers, two guests who will be joining us tonight from one of our partner organizations, the United Vietnamese Student Associations of Northern California, or NorCal UVSA, who are going to be here to help us explain some of the propositions on the ballot for this year's midterm election. So if y'all wouldn't mind helping me welcome our guests for tonight, we have Miss Natalie Phan, who is the External Vice President for NorCal UVSA. Nat has been involved in VSA since her high school days, all the way to her time in college when she was External Vice President and President for VSA at UC Davis. During her time at UC Davis, she was involved with the community through VSA and a Vietnamese student-run clinic at Davis called VN Cares. She is currently a CGMBS in the CGMBS program at San Jose State University, hoping to get her license as a clinical genetic molecular biological scientist. So welcome, Nat. If you could say hi to our viewers.
Hi, sorry, I have a very long title, and if it doesn't make sense, don't worry about it.
Oh my gosh, it's awesome. Thanks for being here with us. I also have the pleasure of introducing Miss Alice Truong, who has been involved with the Vietnamese community in San Jose ever since she was young. She's been attending and eventually helped teach Vietnamese language classes for about 7 years, and has continued to be active in her community by being on the board for her undergraduate university's VSA's executive board for the past 3 years in Stockton. Now she is pursuing her master's in biology in San Francisco and hopes to be able to continue to give back to the community. Welcome, Alice.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Awesome. Welcome to VAR on Air. Thank y'all both for joining us tonight. It's really incredible to be here with y'all this evening to talk about the elections that are so near and dear to us and important for our communities. First question I want to ask you both, maybe starting with Alice, is Could you speak a little bit about how, we heard it in your bio, but can you tell us a little bit about how you started to get engaged working in the community and with civic engagement work, and why you feel like this year's election is especially important to you?
Yeah, so like it was said in the bio, I've always been very involved in like the Vietnamese community. Like as a kid, like my parents would take me to temple all the time, like every weekend, and they would make me volunteer there. Like I would like do like cultural dances, and then eventually I started teaching like or being a TA for Vietnamese classes. And so for voting, I think like in high school, I realized how important voting was, like because I was becoming like 18 and it was like a whole big thing. And so I tried my best to like educate myself on like, how the American government works. It's super complicated, but like ever since then, like I realized like, like being engaged with the community and like voting, they're just like two very big things that a lot of people don't really understand. And so that's kind of why I joined this organization, because like I wanted to like continue giving back to the community, and then I also wanted to like kind of help educate them on like why voting is so important, especially like with these past few elections. They've been like really pushing for younger people to vote more.
Yeah, that's awesome, Alice. Thanks for sharing that. And for our viewers, this evening, there we also VAR has a radio show, that VAR and Air, the radio show that we put into the Vietnamese radio, and Alice is also shares her knowledge of each of the propositions on Vietnamese radio. So glad to have you back here in English for tonight too, Alice. And Nat, what about you? What got you engaged and started in this work and your involvement in the Viet community?
So, similar to Alice, I didn't really get involved with politics that much until like my senior year of high school. I was actually in AP Gov. Shout out to my teacher, Mr. Cao, also Vietnamese, very cool. Um, he really got me involved in like politics because we were trying to learn all these propositions and how they affect us. And I didn't really understand how all these policies actually slowly affect us. And I actually got to talk to Rokana when I was in high school, and he explained a little more politics to us. And after that, I got more and more involved in trying to understand laws and why and how they affect us. And while I was in Davis, I did work at a student run clinic for the Vietnamese community. And I really got to see like how um, different policies can affect people, especially because on the ballot there are some medical policies out there, and voting really affects how these laws are in place, and they could really affect our community in general. And I got really involved in political stuff and activism while I was external vice president at Davis, and I wanted to learn more and stuff like that. And I really want to be more engaged in civic engagement, just because voting is a small thing that we can do for our community that could make a difference in the future and can make a difference in the future. So yeah, not eloquent, but it's okay.
No, I mean, I think that's perfect. I think both of you really capture the essence and the spirit of why us as young Vietnamese American voters should need to be engaged, right? All of the folks that are in VSA or friends of folks in VSA, or just young Vietnamese American voters who help their parents understand the ballots that they got and like drive them out to the voting centers. Like I remember getting that I voted sticker and feeling so proud of myself, because like my parents and even my grandparents would be kind of, they'd stick it on and we'd go out to McDonald's and we show it off, right? And so there is this sense of like pride that comes from being here as a refugee, right? Or as an immigrant, and being able to show that you can and have been able to participate civically, right? And especially for today, both of y'all mentioned that it's hard to kind of understand all the information that is sort of thrown at us in the ballots or in all of these different voter guides that we've been getting, right? So for us here in the Vietnamese American community, I'm glad to have you both to help us kind of work through each of the propositions, what they're for, what they're about, what are the arguments for each of the propositions, and what are the arguments against each of the propositions. So we're gonna get started, but for all of our viewers who are tuning into VAR on Air now, in case y'all are interested, there is also a English and Vietnamese 2022 voter guide that VAR has put out. NorCal UVSA will also be putting out a graphic. So remember to check us out on Instagram and Facebook for the full content and what you need to know about each of the propositions and local ballot measures for this year's election. But so, the best place to start, I think, is with Proposition 1. And I'll turn it over to you, Alice, if you could tell us more about it.
Yeah, so Proposition 1 is the proposition to protect abortion in the California state constitution. And so as of right now, like abortion is legal in California, but it's not constitutionally protected. And so, like recently, the Supreme Court decided that federally abortion is illegal, but like on the state level in California, it's still legal. It's just not considered a protected reproductive right. And so by passing Proposition 1, we're going to like amend that constitution to include abortion and like, protect it under the state. And so people who are supportive of that, they're like, yeah, like we should like constitutionally protect abortion. And people who are against that are saying like it's not necessary and that it would just be a waste of time because it's still already legal in the state of California.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks for that, Alice. Following Proposition 1, we've got two propositions that are about legalizing sports betting and their relationship to American Indian lands. So I'll pass it over to you, Nat, to talk a little bit more about Propositions 26 and 27.
Thanks, Philip. So you've probably seen it all in the ads. I feel like these propositions get the most advertisements of all of the other propositions. So these two do go hand in hand, and they are competing measures. So Proposition 26 is legalizing sports betting on American Indian lands initiative, while Proposition 27 is legalizing sports betting and revenue for a homelessness prevention fund initiative. So a little bit more on 26. More than half of the United States have legalized sports betting since the Supreme Court overturned federal ban in 2018. And advocates are hoping California will be next. Proposition 26 allows increased gambling activities at American Indian-owned casinos and allows betting on sports events at these casinos, and horse track racing, etc. So Proposition 26 and 27, like I said, are competing measures. So if they both pass, the court will decide which one goes into effect. If they don't both pass, then none of them obviously will go into effect. Proposition 26 authorizes sports wagering in person at these tribal casinos for adults rather than authorizing sports betting statewide. And revenue support will support Native American self-resilience and tribal education and healthcare services. So most of that money does go to the Native Americans. Prop 26 also expands tribal monopoly on gambling to include sports betting. A no vote would mean that sports betting would continue to be illegal in California, and tribal casinos will continue to be unable to offer roulette games, etc., etc. If Prop 26 and 27 both fail, sports betting will remain illegal, as I said before. Prop 27 is slightly different. So this is for online sports betting. So as I said before, sports betting was overturned in 2018. So what this bill is hoping for is to get online sports betting to be allowed, not just in Native American casinos. So this will be accessible from computers and mobile apps. And online sports betting will be regulated, and revenues from online and 10%, with some exemption, will be a permanent fund to California's housing, mental health, and addiction treatment. Prop 27 authorizes online sports betting through computers, mobile apps, as I said, and no would mean no sports betting at all. So it really depends on which one you vote for. So 26 mostly goes to Native Americans, and 27 will mostly go to aiding in California's housing, mental, and addiction treatment. 10% of that for 27. Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for that breakdown, Nat. And it's a lot, right? Like all of them, I think all the names kind of blend together and they're confusing. So having some clarity in terms of like what each of them actually mean is super helpful. Where we've got 7 of these propositions to talk through. So I'm going to pass it next to on Proposition 28 to Alice on Art and Music K-12 Education Funding Initiative. Alice?
Yeah, so Proposition 28 is to increase funding for music and art education in K through 12 schools. And so, I was like a former band kid, so I know that a lot of schools have like a serious need for funding for art and music programs. And so, what this proposition is doing is that it's going to take at least 1% of like the total state's revenue and put that under towards funding for K through 12 music and art education. And there's actually a proposition passed in the past, Proposition 98, that also like works together with this to like distribute the funding for schools a little bit better. And so this would require schools that have over 500 students, because like public schools basically, to use 80% of the extra funding that they get for like hiring more teachers for these programs. And then 20% of that money will go into like training those teachers and like any materials needed for the classes. And so, this, like, people who support this proposition, they're like, like, the kids need more art and music education. Like, it could be good for their health. It's something that's not so like academically difficult, like math or English classes. And so, there's actually no opponents for this proposition that I've seen. Like, most people I know like support it.
Yeah, thanks for that, Alice. Yes, for Proposition 28, no arguments against it were submitted to the Secretary of State. And as we're making our way through these propositions, both the Vietnamese American Roundtable and NorCal UVSA are 501c3 nonprofit, nonpartisan entities. So the purpose of us being on here talking about each of these propositions is solely to provide information. We're not endorsing for or against arguments for any of the propositions. We just want to be able to make sure that y'all, our viewers and our community, have the information that you need to make an informed decision, right? So hopping over from Proposition 28 to Proposition 29, which I've also seen a lot of ads around for, regarding dialysis clinic requirements initiative with Nat.
Hey, so as Philip said, Proposition 29 is dialysis clinic requirement initiative. You might have seen this in previous years. I've definitely seen this on the ballot a lot of times. So you might be a little confused or not understanding why it's coming back all the time. So this is also known as kidney dialysis rules reform. So it's been on the ballot for like 4 times of 4 years, and the SEIU, United Healthcare Workers West, is pushing for the ballot initiative to change private for-profit kidney dialysis clinic rules that require kidney dialysis clinics to have at least one physician, nurse practitioner, or physical assistant within 6 months or relevant experience available on site for via telehealth. Clinics would be required to report infection data to the state and list physicians who have their owner interest in clinics. Clinics will also be prohibited from closing or reducing services without state approval and refusing treatment to people based on their insurance type. Supporters argue that dialysis companies do not invest enough in patient care and safety, even though they're highly profitable with $3.5 billion of revenue per year. And 3/4 of clinics are also owned and operated by 2 for-profit companies. Prop 29 will ensure that they receive safe treatment in dialysis clinics under the care of doctors or highly trained clinics in case of emergencies without risk of infection, etc. And reporting documents will be required. Opponents say against this measure is unnecessary and the staff already treats and monitors people as to provide quality care, and the cost of this will increase and possibly make dialysis more expensive for the 80,000 people in California with that need dialysis. And I'd say it's close to home because a lot of clinics really do affect us as a community. Personally, this is something I'm invested in. So if you want to do more research, this is basically bare bones of it.
Yes, and on that note about more research and our connections to each of these propositions, right? If you have any questions about any of the propositions, you can of course go to the bit.ly link that's scrolling at the bottom for the full voter guide. But you can also go to the sources and resources that we pulled information from, including Lead Filipino, one of our partner organizations, their voter guide, the League of Women Voters, Ballotpedia, Cal Matters, Voters Edge. All of these are wonderful nonpartisan sources that provide you with all the information that you need to get informed about each of the propositions, right? In addition to the information that we're providing here for you tonight. For Proposition 30, also known as the wealth tax to support clean air programs, I'll pass it back to you, Alice.
Hi. Yeah, so this Proposition 30, proposes that we increase the tax on the wealthy 1% by about 1.75%, and that this money would be put into like zero emission transportation, so like electric cars, and also wildfire prevention. And so this proposition is actually pretty controversial because well, the state of California already has allocated like billions and billions of dollars into like promoting zero emission cars. So like that's like building more charging stations and stuff like that. And so increasing the tax for this purpose to a lot of people seems kind of like questionable. And then also a lot of people arguing against this proposition are saying that like a lot of that money is not going to go into wildfire prevention. But for people who do support this proposition, they think that it's like a great idea because, as you know, almost every year there's been wildfires like in the state of California, like all over the state. And so, putting more money into that can help decrease some of the damage from those wildfires. And then also, like the state is pushing for cleaner energy. And so helping like set up more infrastructure for zero emission cars would be really like helpful for that, especially since like there's been laws and propositions passed in the past that are kind of like deterring people from using like gas vehicles and like gas powered equipment.
Thank you for that, Alice. Yes, so many of the ballot propositions that we've got are controversial, and we definitely do encourage all of our viewers to understand both sides before making their decisions, right? Proposition 31, known as the upholding or overturning tobacco ban. Pass it back to you, Nat.
Thanks, Philip. So, Proposition 31, as he said, is flavored tobacco product ban referendum. So, you might have seen this on the ballot a while back. So, Proposition 31 is a referendum supported by tobacco companies to challenge the 2020 law that banned most flavored tobacco products except for hookah, premium cigars, and loose leaf tobaccos. So, basically, your vapes, your pens, whatever. So manufacturers say it's unfair that blocks products preferred by millions of adults, and it could hurt business to create a new underground market, losing the state tax revenue for these products. California lawmakers and healthcare providers have long argued that flavored tobacco products are targeted to minors and people of color. So that's their argument. Supporters of Prop 31 argue that upholding the 2020 law would protect kids by prohibiting the sale of candy-flavored tobacco products, including e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, vapes, other forms of e-cigarettes that are out there. And the law will also help lower smoking rates, especially among people of color, because that's where those products are most popular with. Opponents against Prop 31 argue that it is unnecessary as it's illegal to sell any tobacco products, including vapes and e-cigarettes, to minors, anyone under the age of 21. And banning flavored tobacco products would lead to more crime, an increased underground market, and then the state will not get those tax revenues because tobacco products are taxed more. Um, and it discriminates against adults who want to use flavored tobacco products and help them quit smoking, and compared to like using actual cigarettes. And Prop 31 will cost taxpayers over billions of dollars over the 4 years.
Thank you for that, Nat, and you, Alice, for getting through all 7 of the propositions that are on the California state ballot for our 2022 midterm elections with such grace. We are running a little bit low on time, so we won't be able to talk about some of the local measures that are also on the ballot. But I just wanted to let all of our viewers know that if you visit this bit.ly/VAR voter guide, you can also learn about what Measure I in the city of San Jose, Measure N for Eastside Union High School District, and Measure P for the Oak Grove School District are about. So before we close out our program for tonight, VAR has some announcements that I'd like to share with our community members. One of them being next Tuesday on General Election Day, we have partnered with Amplify Asian America to co-host a midterm elections watch party. So if you are interested and need someone to watch the midterm election results with, not that you aren't already anxious or stressed out enough, come join us. You can find out more information on our Instagram. On another note, VAR has also released 2 statements that we have drafted and signed onto in coalition with other nonprofit organizations and community leaders, in coalition with members of the Vietnamese American, AAPI, and people of color communities, to condemn and call for an end to the usage of race baiting and red baiting tactics during this and all election cycles. For our viewers, you can read the full statement available on our Facebook and Instagram, as well as our website. And if you would like to work with us or volunteer with us to be involved in our work to transform our communities and find ways to address anti-Asian hate, as well as towards the goal of racial justice after the elections, please DM us, reach out to us, and do not be shy. And then with that, I'll pass it over to Natalie, Nat, and Candace, if you have any announcements you'd like to make on behalf of NorCal UVSA.
Hi, thanks, Philip. So basically, we have a lot of NorCal UVSA stuff that we'd love to promote. Our annual Summit Leadership Conference is finally coming back after COVID. We'll be having a one-night event, 2-day, one-night event that will be occurring on Veterans Day weekend. Sadly, our registration has closed and everything, but would love to have sponsors just to support our constituents and have a great leadership conference, as well as CEO, our Civic Engagement and Outreach Committee that Alice and I are on, have our own proposition document that is also translated in Vietnamese that we hope will be out very soon. There will be an Instagram infographic on our Instagram at NorCal UVSA that you could share with your family in case if you want to speak in Viet as well as in English. And we'll have that also in a PDF form as well. And Alice and I had a workshop where we recorded ourselves, so we hope to post that up too, where we explain the positions on the ballot and some basic fun facts about voting as Asian American community, et cetera, and we explain what each position is on the ballot. If you didn't know, everyone's running governor, lieutenant governor. I didn't know what a controller was until now, but a controller as well. So if you want to know more about that and what they do, we did explain that on a workshop. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Thanks for that, Nat. And thanks also to you, Alice. And again, as we close out the program, I'd like to once again share some gratitude and thank all the folks who across our communities have been working on civic and voter civic and voter education and engagement efforts. Some to name, especially on behalf of VAR, is To Lead Filipino, who allowed us to use their voter guide that had initially come out, where we drew a lot of our source material from. Our staff and committee of volunteers, our translators, our youth civic engagement intern Candice, who has helped us put some amazing graphics together on our social media pages, and of course, NorCal UVSA and Nat and Alice, for joining us tonight to help provide all of our folks in our communities with information that they need to make those informed decisions in this year's midterm elections, because our lives and livelihoods are at stake. So with that, thank you all so much again, our viewers of VAR on Air, and we look forward to seeing you back here on VAR on Air after the election cycle. So thank you all so much. Good night, everyone.